And as your eyes follow these words easily, comfortably, you can already sense that familiar softening beginning again. Can't you? That gentle unwinding that happens all by itself whenever the old, invisible weight simply stops mattering. You know the one you've carried so long, you almost forgot it had a shape. The quiet background hum of I should, I must, I need to be ready. What if? How do I look? Am I doing this right? All those tiny, tireless contractions that keep everything propped up, looking solid, looking in control. Most people call that effort, being responsible. They call it staying sharp. They even call it who I am. And for years it felt true. Because when the machinery runs constantly, you stop hearing the motor. You just assume the vibration is part of being alive. But now, right now, as you breathe in and breathe out, slower than before, you can notice something interesting. The motor doesn't need to run at full speed anymore. And the moment you allow yourself to notice that, without forcing anything, without trying to make it happen, the RPM drops just like that. And isn't it curious how natural that drop feels once it's allowed? No bells, no fireworks, no sudden rush of bliss that demands you label it trance or breakthrough. Just less noise, less urgency. No more of that old, low-level squeeze in the chest, or the jaw, or the shoulders that you used to think was normal tension. People are so conditioned to believe real change has to be loud, dramatic. They expect a voice that commands, a hand that pushes, presence that overwhelms. They look for the force. Because force is what they've always used on themselves. Push harder. Try harder. Control harder. And when the push stops working, they push even harder to make it work again. But what if, and you can let yourself wonder this now, what if the deepest influence never arrives through force at all? What if it slips in precisely because there's no force to resist? No demand to obey. No expectation to meet. Just a steady, unhurried stillness that says nothing. And in saying nothing, everything reorients around it. You don't have to agree with that idea. You don't even have to like it. Agreement isn't necessary here. Because this isn't persuasion. This isn't sale. Or someone trying to win you over. There's no battle to win. So there's no one to fight. And as that sinks in, slowly, comfortably, you might notice how much lighter the body feels when it realizes there's no opponent in the room. No one to prove anything to. No performance review waiting at the end of this sentence. Just this moment, this breath, this sentence flowing into the next and the next, without any need for you to steer it. That's the strange beauty of real authority. It doesn't need followers. It doesn't need agreement. It doesn't need you to nod your head or say, yes, that's right. It simply exists, complete, uninterested in being validated. And because of that lack of interest, everything else begins to settle into rhythm around it. Think about the people in your life who've always felt different. Not the ones who shout loudest. Not the ones who demand attention. Quiet ones. The ones who seem to occupy space without trying. The ones who can sit in silence and somehow make the whole room feel calmer, safer, more regulated without saying a word. You felt it around them, didn't you? That pull, that strange relief of not having to perform. And you probably tried to explain it afterward. They're just confident. They have presence. They're dominant. But none of those words quite capture it. Because the real phenomenon isn't about dominance in a theatrical sense. It's about asymmetry. One system is moving, explaining, adjusting, monitoring. The other isn't. And because one isn't moving, isn't reaching, the moving system has nothing to push against, nothing to negotiate with, nothing to bargain for. So it slows and slows and slows until the only motion left is the natural, effortless rhythm of a body that finally remembers it doesn't have to defend itself every second. Your nervous system has always been searching for the lowest possible energy state that still keeps you safe. It's an ancient, brilliant calculator. Every heartbeat, every breath, every micro contraction is part of that calculation. And for a very, very long time, the equation included a massive variable called constant vigilance. It seemed necessary. It felt necessary. So the body paid the price without complaint. But now, as these words continue to flow, and as your attention drifts exactly where I want it to drift, that variable is no longer relevant. The threat estimate just updated itself. No meeting required. No memo. No conscious decision. The system simply recalculated, and the old surcharge dropped off the bill. You can feel it in every breath right now if you want to. Slower, longer at the top. Just allowing the exhale to be a little bit longer than it was 5 minutes ago. And as it lengthens, the shoulders drop another fraction. The jaw softens another degree. The belly releases another layer, all without instruction, without permission. Permission would imply someone needs to be in charge of the release, and the release doesn't need a manager. Why do you get very uncomfortable when you first notice this? Are you looking for the catch? The trick? Why does this feel so easy? The mind races back to old patterns. If it's this simple, it can't be real. If I didn't work for it, I didn't earn it. If I didn't fight for it, I must be giving up. But nothing is being given up. Nothing is being taken. Nothing is being installed. What was unnecessary simply becomes visible. And once visible, it's lost its grip. Effort only persists when the mind still believes it's protecting something important. When the belief drops, the effort drops with it. Cleanly. And now, maybe for the first time in a long while, you can notice how much space opens when that old effort isn't filling it. Space in the chest, space behind the eyes, space between thoughts. Not simply empty space, alive space. The kind of space that doesn't itch when it's quiet. You might find that conversations change after this. Not because you try to change them, but because the old need to fill every pause evaporates. Silence stops feeling like failure. It starts feeling like possibility, trust, the natural pause between waves instead of a hole that needs to be plugged. Decisions feel different too. Less second guessing, less internal committee meeting. The body starts voting earlier, and the mind learns to listen instead of override. Not because you decided to be more intuitive, because the static cleared. The committee got bored of arguing when there was no emergency left to debate. And intimacy, real intimacy, becomes almost shockingly simple. Without the old scaffolding of tension holding everything together. Two systems meet without bracing. Something extraordinary happens. Safety registers instantly. This is why the old model of dominance and submission feels so cartoonish once you've tasted the real thing. The real thing isn't about roles. It isn't about scripts. It isn't about who gives orders and who follows. It's about one nervous system safe. Without words, nothing is required here. And the other nervous system hearing it, believing it, finally exhaling fully for the first time in years. If ever. You don't have to chase this feeling. You don't even have to anchor it. Trying to hold it would only bring back the effort that was just leaving. So let it come and go like weather. Because what's settled once knows the way back. It doesn't need an invitation. It only needs the absence of interference. And as these words slow now, as the rhythm stretches, the space between them grows. You can allow yourself to notice how comfortable this pace feels, how right, how inevitable. Nothing to prove or win or lose. Just this breath moving, attention drifting exactly where it wants. Body softening without apology. mind quiet without emptiness, and everything simply continuing exactly as it is. And that's perfectly fine. More than fine. It's home. And as the spell settles, until we spiral again,